When talking about giant sea creatures, we cannot forget giant clams, which weigh up to 200 kilograms and have a lifespan of up to 100 years. These creatures are now considered one of the endangered species due to overexploitation, but some natural sea areas still have thousands of giant clams living. Let's explore with us what the life of giant clams is like on the ocean floor. Explore the life of giant clams on the ocean floor. Because the number of giant clams is decreasing, research policies to develop the breeding of these creatures are being organized. This is a completely new industry, so researchers need to carefully learn about the behavior and living environment of these species of clams, thereby creating an artificial environment to nurture them. Giant clams are found mainly in the Indian and Pacific Oceans in areas such as the Caribbean Sea, Australian Reef, Andaman Sea, and Southeast Asia. These giant clam populations often live on coral reefs or in the seabed. Unlike many other creatures that live on coral reefs and move around, giant clams often live permanently on coral reefs throughout their lives. It lies on the ocean floor, living at depths in broken coral or coral sand. Giant clams are omnivores and filter feeders. They pull water into the shell and filter both zooplankton and phytoplankton to turn them into nutrients. The clamshell also protects billions of algae in exchange for the opportunity to absorb proteins that algae produce through photosynthesis. Algae is also responsible for the bright and beautiful colors of the shells of mussels. That's why giant clams can live and survive in a fixed environment. They also don't need to move to feed. Giant clams are hermaphrodites, producing both eggs and sperm. An adult giant clam can lay more than 500 million eggs at a time. Since they cannot self-fertilize, they reproduce by spawning in waves. When an egg is released, this causes nearby giant clams to also release sperm and eggs into the water column. This causes the clams to be submerged in water containing sperm and eggs. They will self-fertilize if they come into contact with each other. With this reproductive ability, if applied and raised on farms with human intervention, perhaps the number of giant clams will grow in the nurturing environment. Currently, the exploitation of giant clams has been banned or strongly restricted in many regions and countries around the world. The main reason is to protect and preserve giant oysters, as well as maintain the ecological balance of marine environments. The ban on exploitation of giant oysters may apply in marine protected areas areas requiring special protection, national parks, or waters recognized as natural heritage. This ensures that giant oysters can survive and grow in natural environments without being seriously affected by human activities. After understanding the characteristics and habitat of giant clams, researchers began building a farm model suitable to their conditions. Initially, they built small-sized aquariums and used seawater with appropriate salinity and air. Divers go to the bottom of the sea to collect the eggs and sperm of giant clams, which they can then begin fertilizing to create larvae. After the larvae develop into young giant clams, they select the best quality breeds and raise them on the farm. Despite its huge size and weight, the meat of giant clams is very small. Although the mollusk only accounts for about 10% of the body weight of the giant clam, it is almost pure protein, good for health. Giant clams contain many important nutrients for the body and are processed into many different dishes. Their meat has a crunchy taste like snail meat and is sweet. Because of their rare quantity, giant clams are expensive. Large giant clams can cost thousands of dollars.
Have you ever seen these giant clams? At first glance, they look very much like coral reefs on the seabed, but in fact, they are giant clams that can reach a weight of up to 500 kg. So, are these giant clams considered seafood or not? How do we harvest them? We invite you to explore with us in today's video. Giant clams, true to their name, we can easily recognize them by their very large size, which can be up to 1.3 meters long, with an average weight of more than 250 kg. They are slow-growing, long-living creatures and the world's largest living bivalve. They are found in tropical waters of the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Currently, the number of giant clams in the wild is seriously decreasing due to illegal hunting, so the giant clam is listed as a rare animal species at risk of extinction. To preserve this species, people have researched and successfully propagated how to raise giant clams, which not only helps preserve the seed source, but also brings in great profits. In order for a giant clam farm to develop effectively, it requires a standard number of seed. So, where do people harvest the seed? Giant clams are hermaphrodites. They can release eggs and sperm all at the same time. People choose giant clams in their 20s as breeders. After harvesting giant clam eggs and sperm, they fertilize and become swimming larvae. Larvae goes through several rapid stages as it transitions from floating plankton to small clams that settle on the sea floor. About 40 hours after hatching, the first signs of mussel shells appear. After about a year, the giant clams are about 10 centimeters long. Now, they cling tightly to the bricks. Baby giant clams that are about 1 year old will be taken to farms and raised. When giant clams reach a size of about 15 centimeters over the next 5 to 8 months, they will be transferred to an offshore nursery. There, they are attached to wire mesh so they don't get separated when sea levels rise, and are enclosed in cages to protect them from predators, like triggerfish. Finally, the giant clams are placed on the sand so that they can grow to their enormous size when they reach adulthood. Today, Cosray is known as one of the few giant clam farms in the world. Dozens of large tanks to house them of varying sizes, continuously pumped in with seawater from the ocean. They make their own food from sunlight, like plants. All they need is a weekly supply of water and time to develop. The giant clam species not only has a giant body, but its meat is highly valuable. People use clam meat to prepare many delicious dishes that are indigenous to several people around the world. The selling price of giant clams depends on the size and weight of the shell, but ranges from $400 to $2,400. Giant clam meat is very crispy and chewy. Therefore, this type can be processed into many delicious dishes, such as grilled, steamed, cooked with porridge, stir-fried with garlic butter, etc. According to the experience of fishermen, large giant clams, weighing about 1 kg, are the ones that have the most delicious meat. Giant clamshells are sold as souvenirs and to decorate homes and aquariums, mainly in the US and Europe, and their shells are a rare, raw material for the burgeoning shell carving industry, developed in China and Japan. The thickness of a shell, the uniqueness of the mother of pearl colour seem to evolve creative inspiration for the artisans. Therefore, each artist not only cuts and sharpens, but also breathes life into each meticulously sculpted line. Everything has converged and blended to create a magical transformation. Rough mussel shells, buried deep at the bottom of the ocean, suddenly become a masterpiece of art.
The farm raises the world's largest sea snail. Surely you have witnessed giant snail shells drifting onto sandy shores, right? They are the largest sea snails in the world, and according to research, they are marine creatures that have existed hundreds of millions of years ago. Today, due to human hunting, the number of giant snails is decreasing, which leads to countless other impacts on the ecosystem. To improve the situation, many researchers have successfully raised giant sea snails on farms. The world's largest sea snail farm. In nature, giant Triton snails are found in the Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean, including the Red Sea, where they reside on coral reefs. They have large spindle-shaped shells, usually white and yellow or brown. These snails can grow about 2 feet long, making them one of the largest mollusks in the world. Triton sea snails are famous for being able to eat venomous crown-of-thorn starfish. These large sea snails are known for their ability to sense and chase prey, including starfish, which are notorious for their poisonous spines. Although starfish can detect and flee from incoming prey, Triton snails are faster. After the Triton grabs its prey, it will use its serrated mouth to tear through the skin and secrete paralyzing saliva. From there, the Triton snail will slowly eat it. The giant Triton snail is currently being bred through many projects, especially the Australian government has sponsored large amounts of capital. This way, they can try to naturally reduce the number of sea stars and restore the coral reef. Although the giant Triton is believed to be a key species in limiting potential crown-of-thorns starfish outbreaks, it is still collected in many parts of the world because its shell is valuable as a commercial commodity. They are often sold in stores or markets in popular tourist destinations in the tropics. The shell of the giant Triton is a very popular trade item, often used as decoration or as a gift for tourists. Due to the resulting commercial harvesting, Triton numbers have decreased significantly. This has led to the influx of other species such as coral-eating crown-of-thorns starfish. As one of the largest snail species in the world, Triton snails are up to 50 centimeters in size and have high economic value. The role of this snail in the marine ecosystem is extremely important. If they do not hunt crown-of-thorns starfish as prey, the coral systems in the ocean will certainly become food for this species of sea star. In particular, only the Triton snail can attack and eat the poisonous crown-of-thorns starfish. If the giant snail farm is successfully propagated, it will not only ensure ecological balance, but it will also limit overfishing of the giant Triton snail. Today, the only method to catch giant Triton snails in the wild is scuba diving. And this species is in small numbers, so not every diving trip can catch it. They live in waters about 20 to 30 meters deep. This is also one of the reasons why this snail is so valuable. In Vietnam, many shops specializing in selling fresh seafood also have many types of giant snails, but this is actually a luxury item for many people. And even if fishermen in the sea catch Triton snails, they rarely get to enjoy them because for them, this valuable snail will bring high profits compared to a day's effort spent scuba diving. Not only valuable for their shells as decorations, giant snails are also a specialty in Southeast Asia. Their meat is considered crispy and sweet. However, due to their rarity, the price of this snail species is about $150 to $300 each, even more expensive if the snail is large in size. The outstanding feature of queen snail is its thick, crispy, and fragrant meat. Chefs often take the snail kernels and prepare them into many delicious dishes. Triton snails not only have a delicious taste, but are also a food rich in vitamins and many nutrients that are beneficial for health. Queen snail meat contains very high levels of vitamin A, B, and C, so it helps strengthen the immune system, improve eyesight, and prevent skin aging. So even though the price is expensive, people with economic conditions and gourmets can always consume the snails. Do you know where Europe's largest oyster farm is located? These are oyster farms in France with superior quality compared to oysters in other regions of the world. Oysters here can be sold for $10 each. So today, we invite you to join us in exploring a 100-ton oyster farm in France. Explore a farm that raises 100 tons of French oysters worth $10 each. In France, the Marennes-Oléron oyster farm is also considered the largest in Europe, with about 6,000 hectares of oyster farms, and each year from 45,000 to 60,000 tons of Marennes-Oléron oysters are produced here. The annual export output accounts for 50% of France's total oyster production. Marennes-Oléron oysters are the only French oysters to be honored with the label Rouge Award, an award that distinguishes products of outstanding quality. So how does France's largest oyster farm operate? The first step is to prepare quality oyster seed. Each oyster produces about 1 million eggs, which after fertilization become larvae. To collect these larvae, oyster farmers need to select quality seeds and artificially fertilize them to create large numbers of larvae. Through special nurturing and care in the controlled environment, the larvae that grow to a size of 10 millimeters will be transported to the farm and raised in a natural environment. At the farm on the beach, people have prepared mesh bags measuring 100 centimeters long and 50 centimeters wide. Mesh bags can be used multiple times during each oyster farming season. At this time, the seed oysters will be placed in mesh bags for nurturing, then placed on wooden racks. Each farm has tens of thousands of similar mesh bags spread across each wooden trellis. Over a period of nearly 2 years, the oysters feed on plankton and gradually grow under the close supervision of oyster farmers. During this time, the bags must move nearly 40 times depending on the tides and currents. Oyster farmers must check their oysters every day. It is a job that simultaneously requires physical endurance and precision. We can see large and small oysters living in the wonderful scenery. Here, the ecosystem is regulated by almost continuous flow of water created by tidal movements. Oysters feed by filtering water through their gills during certain periods of the tide. Over the growing season, oysters are sorted by size and repositioned on different platforms accordingly. Each bag of oysters must be turned over and shaken by hand to ensure the oysters are separated from each other so the shells do not stick together. There are tens of thousands of bags that need to be processed, and this is a year-round job for oyster farmers. After harvest, sorting oysters by shape and size is an important step in getting oysters to the market. Weighing and selecting oysters are tasks that are done manually depending on their size. They are placed in boxes or large containers sent for sorting. At this stage, the oysters are separated from each other and repackaged in larger bags so they can be kept fresh. Oyster processing is carried out at processing plants where they are cleaned many times with water to remove sand and gravel. Then each worker uses an oyster shelling tool and gently separates the meat. The oyster meat is washed again and then packaged. Oysters need to be stored at low temperatures during transportation to the store or to consumers to keep the product fresh. Oysters are naturally low in fat and rich in very high quality protein. They also have 3 to 4 times less cholesterol than meat. They contain phosphorus and calcium as well as trace elements such as zinc, selenium, and copper. Therefore, they are especially recommended for athletes and women to replace lost minerals. With hundreds of tons of oysters processed every day, people will discard dozens of tons of rough oyster shells that seem to have no effect. But in France, there will be factories that recycle oyster shells. To recycle dead oyster shells, they crush the oyster shells to turn them into a substance that increases fertility and nutrients for the soil. The calcium-rich composition of oyster shells makes them an excellent soil amendment for agricultural and horticultural activities. Crushed oyster shells are used to adjust soil pH, especially in acidic soils, promoting optimal conditions for plant growth. They also enhance soil structure, providing better drainage and aeration. In gardening, crushed oyster shells act as a natural barrier to deter slugs and snails, protecting delicate plants from these common pests. Let's see how the Japanese harvest tons of scallops. Scallops are one of the essential food sources of the Japanese people. Wild fishing is increasingly limited due to environmental issues, so currently, the scallop farming industry is developing strongly in this area. Each season, fishermen can harvest tons of scallops and bring in profits of up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right now, let's explore how the Japanese harvest tons of scallops. Let's see how the Japanese harvest tons of scallops. Japan has a favorable geographical area for aquaculture to develop, with a large sea area and surrounding islands that help prevent rough seas or strong winds. In these waters, fishermen build large-scale livestock farms. The most famous is the Scallop farm in the Sea of Oyster. Scallops caught in the Sea of Oyster are famous for their rich, sweet flavor and chewy texture. In addition to quality, it is also ranked number 1 in Japan for the number of scallops landed many times. Scallop seedlings are grown in the sea for a year, and when they reach a certain size, they are released into the sea where the scallops will grow under appropriate management before being harvested. The seabed along the Oyster coast has more gravel than sand, which has the environmental advantage of being suitable for scallop swarming because even when the sea is open, young shellfish are less likely to be covered by sand. There are many areas where scallops are grown in Japan, but their quality and flavor also vary. Okhotsk Sea scallops are considered the most delicious in farming areas. So what's special about their breeding process? Although scallops are raised in the Sea of Oyster, they are not fed by humans, but instead, they release millions of scallops into the sea so they can grow by eating plankton. This sea area has rich natural resources with clean, nutrient-rich water, so it is very diverse in phytoplankton, providing food for livestock. Scallops are carefully raised by fishermen in the Sea of Oshtok in the favorable natural environment and have a unique sweet taste and thick meat. About 250 million scallops are released over a period of about a month from April to early May. Their food is plankton. After 1 year of raising, the scallops will be harvested. The harvest season lasts from mid-March to the end of November, and tons of scallops can be harvested every day. Some areas raise scallops in mesh bags, so harvesting is easier than scallops dropped on the seabed. Scallops are picked up from the ocean floor using a large rake rifted with a mesh bag, then sorted immediately after being brought on board. Except for scallops that are dead and only have shells, scallops that are too small will be released into the sea. All Japanese fishermen say that sorting is the most difficult because every day dozens of tons of scallops are sorted by hand. Sorting by hand is not easy because the quantity is quite large, forcing workers to work continuously and non-stop to select the best quality scallops. Scallop grading is done right on large fishing boats, and only scallops that meet standards after grading are brought to the processing site. Sashimi dishes have long been a part of the tradition of Japanese residents. All types of seafood are processed into sashimi, that is, eaten raw with a special dipping sauce. The same goes for scallops. Fishermen can fully enjoy the fresh flavor of scallops right after harvest to evaluate their quality. At processing plants during the harvest season, priority is given to peeling raw meat for consumption. So when processing scallops, people separate the meat from the hard shell, then the scallop meat is frozen. Frozen oyster products are also popular because of their long storage time and more convenient transportation process, suitable for many busy consumers. Not only serving domestic consumption needs, scallops in Japan are also exported in quite high prices, bringing big profits. The scallop farming and harvesting industry in Japan also brings stable jobs to thousands of Japanese people. According to the Japanese Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries, scallops exports are worth 91 billion yen each year, about $600 million, ranking first among all exported foods. Of these, a large number are exported to the Chinese market. Natural resources are part of what helped Japan's aquaculture industry grow so strongly, becoming one of the leading countries in seafood production. If you have enjoyed seafood dishes from Japan, please leave a comment below to let us know. Priced up to $120 each, golden snails create a large source of income for fishermen who make a living from fishing. More specifically, golden snails can cost up to hundreds of dollars if they possess rare pearls. How do fishermen harvest golden snails, and what is their value? To discover, please watch this entire video. Harvest giant golden snails. Golden snails are also known as emperor snails to show how rare and valuable they are. This type of snail lives mainly in Asian waters such as Hong Kong, along the coasts of Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, the Philippines, and down to Indonesia. They bring high economic potential to thousands of fishermen, such as exploiting them for food, or especially some individuals can create rare gems. Nowadays, catching golden snails is mainly done by scuba divers. There is no commercial fishing by boat. This species of snail is often accidentally caught by fishermen while fishing with bag nets or draw nets to exploit fish and shrimp. Scuba diving is one of the difficult professions but brings high income to fishermen. Usually, they only wear diving suits and simple oxygen tanks and dive into the sea to search and harvest seafood. Catching golden horn snails is often unintentional because this snail species is inherently very rare. If they are lucky, each time they dive, they can harvest about 1 to 2 golden snails. Golden snail fishing takes place every day from divers or fishing boats. The catching of golden snails by fishing boats is mainly because they get caught in fishing nets or catch other types of seafood. Fishermen in the sea go out to catch clams and oysters using rakes, which easily collect sea clams or conch into the net. If you are lucky, you can catch giant snails such as golden horn snails, golden snails which have high economic value. Fishermen can also harvest golden snails when they are washed ashore by ocean waves. At this time, fishermen just need to pick up sea snails and bring them home for processing. However, golden snails do not always drift ashore because their habitat is in rock holes on the seabed, so harvesting this type of snail is mainly done by diving. Golden sea snails can live for weeks after being caught. They are placed in oxygenated salt water tanks, allowing people to transport fresh golden sea snails to restaurants or other regions. Consumers can enjoy fresh golden snails without going to areas near the sea. This snail contains high nutritional content with ingredients including protein and vitamins, zinc, iron, minerals, phosphorus, and calcium. Therefore, this snail is capable of providing the most necessary nutrients for the body. Besides, this snail also provides the human body with a very beneficial source of omega-3 fatty acids, which helps reduce the amount of excess fat in the blood. Each golden snail weighs 1 to 2 kilograms and has a lot of meat. Many people consider the golden snail meat to have a sweet, crunchy taste, and the belly has a fleshy, fatty taste, so it is processed into many different dishes such as steamed, stir-fried, fried, or to make a salad. Unlike many other types of sea snails, golden snails have thin shells, so their meat is very thick, so they are popular with diners because they have practical value. Snails weighing about 2 kilograms can be processed into many different dishes depending on the diner's requests. Although the price is expensive, the delicious taste and high nutritional value still make many consumers love it and want to enjoy it. Especially when talking about giant golden rhinoceros, it is possible not to mention gems worth hundreds of dollars. However, this type of jade is very rare and difficult to find. It is made from golden melons that have a lifespan of over 10 years. This is also the reason why golden mechs become more valuable than ever. Babylonia areolata snail, also known as sweet snail, is one of the most nutritious and popular sea snails in the world, especially in Asian countries. However, the annual catch is not enough to meet consumption needs, so people have successfully bred Babylonia areolata snails in a captive environment. So today, we invite you to join us in exploring farms raising millions of Babylonia areolata snails. Explore the farm that raises millions of Babylonia areolata. Babylonia areolata is a type of spiral snail with a yellow shell with brown spots distributed throughout the coastal areas with sandy and muddy bottom, the largest being no more than 10 centimeters long and weighing about 60 grams. Unlike any other sea snail species, Babylonia areolata has a very fragrant smell when processed, making it popular with many consumers even though the snail's food is detritus deposited on the seabed and the rotting carcasses of animals, aquatic species. Babylonia areolata farming models are very developed in some Southeast Asian countries, especially Vietnam, not only serving domestic consumption needs but also having high export value. The first step to raising Babylonia areolata is to prepare the pond. This step is very important because this is the environment for snails to live and develop, directly determining the efficiency of farming. Accordingly, choose the pond according to the desired size. Depending on the number of snails you want to raise, choose the corresponding size pond. The water level in the pond should be about 1.2 meters. You should choose a place with shady trees or as close to a water source as possible. Currently, the model of raising snails in cement tanks is increasingly expanding and bringing results beyond expectations. Raising snails in cement tanks helps farmers easily manage the farming environment, manage and care for them, as well as lower food investment costs while still providing outstandingly high productivity. After determining the pond or tank, farmers need to choose breeds from reputable places, need to choose breeds of equal size. About 6,000 to 7,000 fish per kilogram is appropriate, with bright-colored snail shells. Before releasing directly into the farming area, nurse the seedlings so they can adapt to the new environment and temperature. You can release about 800 to 1,000 snail seeds per square meter. Then when the snails grow bigger, you need to reduce the density to 100 to 200 snails per square meter when it's close to harvest time. The main food of snails is fish and crustaceans such as crabs and shrimp. In the early stages, food should be chopped into small pieces, ensuring fresh food. At the same time, combine feeding with industrial feed. Daily food amount is equal to 5 to 10% of the snail's weight. Feed 1 to 2 times a day, spreading food evenly across the tank's surface. Monitor the amount of leftover food daily to adjust the coefficient accordingly. Scoop up leftover food so as not to pollute the water tank. To grow snails effectively, it is necessary to keep the tank environment clean to help the snails grow quickly. Cleaning the sand layer at the bottom of the tank also helps eliminate bacteria and reduce diseases that commonly occur in snails. Farms raising snails in cement tanks bring optimal efficiency. With just 4 months of care, the snails have reached a weight of 170 kilograms, while traditional farming requires 6 to 8 months. Babylonia areolatas raised in tanks can be harvested after about 5 to 6 months, and the yield and survival rate are very high. Raising snails in a tank has many advantages. It saves the farmers hard work, requires less effort, they don't have to dive to the bottom of the pond every day to check on the snails, and the temperature is always stable because there is a roof. With the water level for raising snails in the tank only about 30 centimeters, it's easy to control. Farmers can clearly see whether the snails are healthy or weak, whether the snails are eating or not, to take timely measures, and thanks to the mechanical system. Closed-circuit biological water filtration helps manage water quality, resulting in fewer diseases, faster growth, and higher productivity. Growing snails always has a stable source of consumption. Farmers can sell them at prices ranging from $10 to $20 per kilogram. From there, it brings great profits to coastal farmers who cultivate and raise aquaculture products. In addition to its delicious, chewy, and sweet meat, snails also contain large amounts of vitamins and minerals necessary for the human body. This snail species is also known as the snail queen among all types of sea snails that no other snail can compare to. Babylonia areolata meat has a very unique aroma that no other snail species has. They are processed into many different dishes such as stir-fried, steamed, or fried, making it difficult for diners to resist their flavor.
Hello everyone and welcome to the vast Atlantic Ocean to explore the largest natural scallop fishery in the world. All fishing means use of the most advanced and modern technology that will certainly surprise you, because people can catch dozens of tons of scallops every day. Come on, join us on the boat and start going out to sea to do some fishing. The sea scallop fishery operates mainly along the Atlantic coast to the US and the Caribbean borders. Most vessels catch scallops as shelled meat, but some vessels also catch whole scallops. Modern fishing methods mainly use dredgers throughout the entire fishing range. At a narrower range, trawl nets will be used to catch scallops. Looking at these modern equipment, do you know how people catch 100 tons of scallops? Because the habitat of adult scallops lives close together in groups called beds, on sand or gravel sections of the ocean floor. Therefore, the most optimal method to use is dredgers. The dredge consists of a metal mesh fixed on a chain pulled along the seabed with a net running behind. Place it behind or next to the boat and slowly pull it along the bottom of the boat. When the net touches the scallop will intensively clamp down on its shell to push it off the bottom. At this time, the scallops will fall into the net and be harvested on the side of the boat. This is a difficult but effective job because several tons of scallops can be harvested in just one day. Fishermen catch scallops all year round, in all weathers. Each trip can last from 10 to 14 days. When the device is put back, the scallops will be dumped on the deck. During the 10-day trip, to avoid spoiling the scallops, people will choose to process them directly on deck and only harvest the meat. The scallops are then brought to the processing plant for cleaning and packaging. There are no modern machinery and equipment on the boat, so the shelling process is done manually. It can be seen that the hands work very quickly. In just 1 minute, they can handle dozens of clams. If the trips are short, the scallops will be preserved and transported to the processing factory. Here, modern machines move each standard scallop on a conveyor belt, and workers carry out the processing. Workers will wash fresh scallops and remove impurities such as dirt from the shells. Then transported to the meat shipping factory. Remove the gonads and internal organs, only get the round and milky white flesh. Then wash thoroughly with clean water. Finally, the scallops are packaged and transported to supermarkets or convenience stores to serve customers. Scallops are easy to cook, delicious, and have a sweet flavour. Rich in protein and full of minerals like zinc, copper and omega-3, making them a super healthy meal choice. Scallops are popular worldwide, but consumers in Asia and Europe eat the most, making them a popular ingredient in fine dining establishments and gourmet dishes. Scallops are fried until crispy with a squeeze of lime, served with some chopped fresh coriander and a light mixed salad, making the perfect appetizer or main dish. Scallops can also be eaten raw in ceviche or sliced thinly and served with a rich Asian style sauce. Today's video ends here. How did you feel about today's video? Please leave a comment below, like the video, and please subscribe to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.